Hey, real STL News fam, it's your girl Candace with Chaos, and I am coming to you today with our Wellness Wednesdays, and it's called Dope Wellness Wednesdays because mental wellness is dope, which means it's done on purpose every day. If you're not mentally well, you're mentally ill. That's just as simple as it is. But like I say all the time, society has put us into a place where we are able to deal with stuff when they bother us physically, but we're not able to deal with the things that deal with us mentally, and so we have to learn that we got to deal with our mental health. But today, for the last couple weeks, I've been talking about things that have been really, really heavy. And so since I've been talking about things that have been really, really heavy, today I want to talk about something a little bit lighter, but it's still serious. And so I want to talk about mending relationships. Mending broken relationships, and so that's something that we really have to we don't know how to do. Sometimes we break up, with somebody, and I'm not just talking about in a relationship that is romantic. It could be friendships. You know what I'm saying? Where we end these friendships and we just be like, I'm cutting all ties, I'm done dealing, I ain't dealing no more because they did this. And it could be a place where we can actually salvage something, but we just don't know how to do it. So first and foremost, I want to let you know that all relationships aren't meant to be salvaged. All relationships aren't good relationships. That's just being 100. And some relationships may have to end or change because you don't like who you have to be to maintain those relationships. But in other areas, there can be things that you can get from somebody, and you can give to somebody. And, there are low maintenance friends. Everybody isn't a high maintenance friend where you can talk to them and need to talk to them every day, all day. But there are those low maintenance friends that I don't have to talk to you for a year or two, but it's like when we link up, it's like ain't nothing ever changed because we always been that way. But because communication is a huge issue, and sometimes we don't know how to communicate with people, and based off our own traumas, we just shut people out when they hurt us. We may need some steps on what to do to mend relationships. So I thought I would keep it a little light today and talk about, mending relationships, especially with the stuff that's going on with legends within our city. We got Nelly and Ali that's just having some real situations that's going on. And there are things that have happened between the two of them. We weren't there, so we don't know the full story. We just know the stories that they're sharing. But we do have to understand that there's always three sides to every story. There's your side, my side, and then what actually happened. Because I see it through my perception, you see it through your perception, and then there is what it actually is. And so, let me give you these 5 things. And so if you're having an issue with somebody and you having a hard time, you missing somebody that, something happened and y'all kind of fell off and you don't really know how to reach out to them or what to do, let's talk about these things. So first and foremost, the first thing is asking yourself, even if it's worth it, like just being 100, and so with chaos, we talk about getting raw. Raw stands for realize, admit, and work through. And so first thing is first, before you even try to mend a broken relationship, you have to ask yourself, is it toxic? Is it something that benefits me? So you got to weigh your pros and cons. Like, don't be afraid to sit down and write down what are the pros of dealing with this person and what are the cons. And if the goods outweigh the bads, then move on to step 2. But if the bads outweigh the goods, then you got to ask yourself, why am I trying to put something together that ain't even good for me in the first place? Like, why hurt myself on purpose? Because that doesn't make sense. It's not okay. And we got to recognize sometimes we got trauma bonds with people. Sometimes we are bonded with people through the trauma that we've experienced, and they do things that hurt us based off of other things that people have done, and we just cling to them because it feels familiar. Nah, we ain't doing that in 2021. What we're going to do is have healthy relationships. So if the goods outweigh the bads, then move on to step 2. And that's making meaningful contact. That's reaching out to that person. That's maybe sending them a text message, and maybe having to go old school and actually pick up the phone and call. Maybe it's sending a letter in the mail, whatever it is, send them a card or something. But when you make that meaningful contact, just reach out and be like, hey, I miss you. Hey, this relationship means something to me and I don't want to just throw it away. Hey, I want to see if we can kind of work through things. I wish we can work this out. Put that out there. Put the ball in their court. Now, when you put the ball out there in their court, they may not be willing to take it back. And if they're not, then it's okay. You have to allow people to deal with things and heal as they need to heal. And sometimes you may be ready for the relationship to be mended and they may not be. And the one thing you don't want to do is force somebody to move forward quicker than they're ready to, because if they're not already healed, that stuff is going to resurface. The first time y'all have an issue, they gonna bring up all that old stuff because they ain't healed from it yet. So don't force it, but put it out there. Leave the door open. Don't close it on both sides. Leave the door open, and if they're ready to walk through it, they will. But put the ball in their court if you're ready to try to have this meaningful relationship and try to rekindle whatever it is that y'all lost, if it's in a positive way. I'm going to keep saying positive because there's a lot of folks out here that's trying to rekindle things that are toxic, and you got to let that stuff go. Because if it ain't working for you, it ain't working. And if it ain't worked for you, it probably ain't going to work going forward if ain't nobody willing to make any changes. The third thing is to forgive. You know, whatever it is, you know, you have to forgive. And so we got a skill with chaos called break free. And it stands for forgive, release, embrace, and elevate. First and foremost, forgive that person for not being who you felt they needed to be when they needed to be something for you. Release yourself from the unrealistic expectations that you put on them. People are who they are until they learn how to become somebody different. And sometimes people don't have the capacity to give you what you're looking for, and that's real. So you have to love people for the level that they're at. You have to love people for what they got. You have to love people for the capacity that they can reach, and hold them to their expectations and not yours, flat out. And so once you see a person for who and what they are, whatever their habits may be, whatever their patterns may be, whatever that is, see it for what it actually is. Don't make no fairy tale about it. See a thing for what it is. And then you decide the level of access you want that person to have to you in your life. You don't have to stop completely dealing with them. But what you can do is say, I got to have these certain boundaries because sometimes what you do hurts me. Or it can be you. You can be a person that does some things that's hurtful to other people. And so you have to create clear-cut boundaries with people. And we talked about boundaries a couple of weeks. You know, say what you mean and mean what you say. Be assertive about it and put it out there. And don't move on your boundaries. You know, and the people in your life that if they want to be in your life, they should respect those boundaries that you put in place for yourself. So forgive people for not being who you need them to be. Release them from the unrealistic expectations. Look at the history that you have with that person and embrace y'all's story. Embrace it for what it was. Whatever happened, it did happen. But if the goods outweigh the bads, that person is somebody meaningful in your life. Embrace the story for what it is right now. How did those things affect me, and how are they affecting me now? And then embrace them for what it can be, with love and compassion, not anger, frustration, hostility, or guilt. Because you got to understand that broken people break people down, and it may not be on purpose. But if I'm broken, I can't do nothing but break you too. That's being 100. But I may not want to sabotage the relationship that I have with you, but it may have happened, or something happened, or I could have been going through something and I took that out on you, and I'm sorry for whatever it may be. But embrace it, and then allow yourself to elevate to a higher level of living. And once you do that, once you come to terms with things, then if that person is willing, y'all sit down and y'all have a conversation and y'all actually hash out what was the problem, what happened. And again, getting raw, realizing the issue and admitting your role in it. What was your role? Don't go in like you. No, this is what happened. And for me, I apologize for this. I realized that this is what I did that could have made things go this way. And the other person needs to be willing to have that conversation too. Accountability is real. You can't move forward with somebody that's not willing to be accountable. You can't move forward with somebody that just give you lip service, but their actions don't align up with their words. And so that's something you have to be willing to understand. If they're not willing and they just want to do the blame game, then they're not ready. They're not ready. And if you still want to do the blame and shame and all that extra stuff, then you're not ready. You're not ready. You know, we look at, we have watched publicly, we've watched Ali and Nelly go through what they've been going through for years. We've watched it. And the one thing that I said today, they're not ready. They still are holding on to things and they haven't healed. And so because they are still angry about the things that have happened years ago, today, yesterday, whenever it happened, and they still taking shots at each other and throwing daggers at each other emotionally, they're not ready for a compromise. They're not. And so you can't force it. Everybody is like, squash it, squash it, squash it. It may not be real to y'all or valid to y'all, but it's real or valid to them. And that's how it is when you have conflicts with people. You know, it means something to you. And that's the reason why it's important for you to validate the other person's emotions and feelings. You ain't got to agree with how they feel, but at least feel them. Hear them out and listen to them. The fifth thing is to build respect. Once trust has been broken, once there has been a situation that has occurred, you have to rebuild the trust and respect in your relationship. And if you guys can't, if you can't move forward without disrespecting each other, the name calling, the bringing up the old stuff, without all the negative stuff, if you can't do that, y'all need to let it go. Or at least admit that you're not ready. Don't try to force something that's not ready. That we do that all the time. We try to force things. We try to look over situations that happen in our relationships, romantic, platonic, or whatever it may be, and we just keep moving forward. We can't do that, y'all. You have to deal with things. You have to process and purge. You have to work through things. You have to. Because if you don't, the things that you do not address will continue to show themselves at different times in different places and spaces. And you will continue to repeat the things that you refuse to heal until you address them. And that's not fair to you. So I charge you guys out there, you know, if you got some relationships that done fell off, some friends you done stopped talking to because of whatever it may be, you know, some people that you just not dealing with, and, you know, it's people that you're not dealing with because y'all just fell out and y'all just never talked about it. If you feel comfortable, reach out. If you do feel, reach out, you know, and then if they respond, go to the next step. But first and foremost, ask yourself if it's necessary, if it's even worth it. If it's worth it, reach out. Do your work to forgive on your side. Then you guys address the problem together. And y'all move forward with creating a new normal, starting from a clean slate. And then y'all build a respect and y'all create a new version of your relationship. Because once something is done and once something's been damaged, you can never go back to the way it was. But you can create a new normal. You got this. So I want to end with a chaos affirmation, you guys. My story is my story because it makes me who I am. I'm never ashamed of what I've been through. I'm now doing the best I can. My feelings are my feelings, even when it's a burden to hold. There is nothing wrong with saying it's hard to carry the load. I reset now to remember every situation encourages thought. When I realize, admit, and work through my issues, I can get raw. I embrace my whole truth as I break free. Forgive, release, embrace, and elevate over any dis-ease. One day at a time, no shame on the days I feel troubled. Working hard every day to keep healing and overcoming struggles. Y'all, we got this. We got to understand that sometimes because we're going through things, we do sabotage relationships. Sometimes because of the trauma that we're dealing with, we're hypervigilant and we may be irrational and impulsive sometimes. And sometimes we do have to reach back and be like, you know what, my bad. And it's okay for you to apologize for your side. You don't have to deal with people that don't do you right. That's just being real. I'm not telling you to go out there and deal with folks that have hurt you and you at a point where you can't heal, or they've hurt you to the point where you don't need to move forward with them, but you still need to heal on your own. Happiness and peace are inside jobs. So I need y'all to make sure that y'all do the work. Remember, with Real STL News, we are for the community because we are the community. I love you guys to life, and I'll see you all next Wednesday. Have an amazing day. Bye.